Weight, lift, drag, and thrust. The four forces that make an aircraft fly and soar to great heights are the same forces acting on your brand right now. Let's dive deep into how these forces affect your brand's journey and how you can maximize the lift and thrust forces to make your brand take off and fly high. How to make your brand fly. Hey everyone, it's Canon Wing from Inspiration to Millions. I'm back to answer that question on every entrepreneur's mind, how to come out of nowhere. And the answer is by building your brand like a hometown, using the 10 landmarks of branding. These are the very 10 landmarks that create every great hometown. These landmarks are what we invite our ideal individual to come to your hometown, experience it, and finally take up permanent residence. And isn't that what we all want? To have our ideal individuals try our brand, experience it, come back a few times, and become lifelong brand loyalists? You see, people want to call a brand home. They want to feel like they have arrived in their greater future when they enter your brand. Just the way other people's hometowns keep visitors coming back again and again, filling them with this sense of home. That's how we have to build a brand that inspires your ideal individuals to return again and again, and then take up permanent residence with your brand as brand loyalists. A brand that makes an emotional connection that keeps their promises of a greater future is the brand that becomes the name on everyone's lips. Building a brand is much like building a hometown from the ground up. Build it right, and your brand is all set to take flight. It's all about making your brand fly like an aircraft. In over 2 decades as a namer and branding consultant, I have flown countless times. And yet, even now, every time I take a flight, I feel in awe of this massive beast, this 500-ton giant that, despite its enormous weight, manages to take off, climb higher and higher, gain incredible speed, cruise at 35,000 feet, and wade through every weather change and turbulence. It's amazing, really. I may have flown an airplane 1,000 times, but it remains inspiring and breathtaking to me every single time. There's always a moment where I think, I'm zooming through the air in a chair. How am I doing this? Right? And it made me think, how do you make your brand fly? An aircraft takes off every time despite the opposing forces of wind and gravity and pressure and whatnot. Why? Because it's designed to do that. It's been structured and built upon to withstand and overcome these opposing forces. And today, we're going to learn how you can do the same with your brand. We'll not only calibrate and design your brand to take off, we will build it to weather poor conditions and to safely and punctually transport your ideal individuals into their desired greater futures. Creating a successful brand is all about making your brand fly like an airplane. There's the lift off from the ground, the steady upward trajectory as it gains altitude, then soars to great heights, and then cruises effortlessly in the sky. Don't be afraid of flying. Be afraid of not flying. Let's look at how aircrafts fly to try and understand how you can make your brand fly sky high without looking back or down. Flying is all about these 4 basic forces. Firstly, weight. This is the gravitational force, the inertia that keeps the airplane on the ground, which keeps it stationary. This is your brand going nowhere unless you decide to make it fly. What's weighing you down? What's holding you back? The second aspect is lift. Lift is what overcomes that weight, that thing that's holding you back. This is the strong force that gives the aircraft that push upwards despite all its weight. So, what are the lift forces that can help your brand overcome the weight holding it back? I'll come to that very soon. Meanwhile, let's check out the other 2 forces at work here. The third force affecting flight is drag. Remember how we learned in school that an object will continue to be in motion or to continue to be at rest until force is applied? So at first, gravity prevents the machine from taking off. And then there is drag, the atmospheric pressure that acts opposite to the direction of motion that attempts to drag the aircraft back and down, even as you try to propel it upward and forward. And the fourth aspect of flying is thrust. This is the force that overcomes the drag, that propels the aircraft forward, working up the momentum to keep it airborne. And what would this thrust be for your brand? I'll tell you in just a minute. You want to fly, you got to give up that shit that weighs you down. Believe it or not, that's from Toni Morrison. Beautiful book, The Song of Solomon. Immortal words and very true. Many of my clients come to me in this stage where they're trying to get their brand to take off. Unfortunately, they focus more on the weight and drag holding their brands back, and they don't focus enough on the lift and the thrust that can take them off the ground. Today, I'm going to tell you what I tell them: to deconstruct the forces acting on their brand. Let's start with weight. What's the dead weight holding back your brand from taking flight? Do you have self-limiting beliefs like, am I ready to enter the field? Will people recognize my brand? Is my product or service ready for the market? What if the people don't like it? What if they flame me on the internet? There's so many products out there already. How will I compete? Am I just like everybody else? Instead of spending your energy on dealing with these self-limiting thoughts, use the force of lift to take your brand off the ground. The first 5 landmarks of branding are your lifting forces. These are your name, your tagline, your logo, your story, and your website. In the whole series in the How to Come Out of Nowhere program, my clients learn exactly how to use these and prepare their brands for that initial takeoff. Get these 5 branding landmarks right and overcome the weight, the doubts, the questions, the drag holding your brand back. While I can't cover everything from my entire program in this video, I'm going to give you a quick tip about each of these 5 landmarks. So here we go. Buckle in. Number 1, name. Your name needs to be emotional and memorable, wish-fulfilled, and have a balance of new but familiar. Meaning, we need to see a new future, but we need to be able to anchor ourselves in a familiar aspect of that name. If it's too new, the name, we feel like we don't belong there, right? It's for somebody else, like an elite group that we're not a part of. And if it feels too familiar, we forget it. It's like you're like everybody else, and you just go right out of our mind. So number 2, tagline. My foremost suggestion for a great tagline is to not try to describe everything your brand does. Instead, make your tagline an invitation to a kind of party. Telegraph the tone of your party to your community to pique their interest. Make them want to dive in and see all there is to see and enjoy at that party. And number 3, your logo. Create a logo that makes an emotional impact. Go for that. It's really essential. If you cannot name the emotion your logo evokes, go back to the drawing board. Number 4, story. When telling your brand story, don't make it a long, drawn-out series of events strung together. Pick one pivotal moment and tell your ideal individuals one story, and let this one story evoke a strong emotional reaction. Number 5, website. Never, ever confuse your buyer by adding everything to your home page. A confused buyer will never buy. Instead, design a layout that naturally guides the reader towards the call to action. So that's it. In lightning fast speed, these 5 branding landmarks that will provide that initial thrust, to get that lift, to get your brand what it needs to overcome whatever is dragging it down, whatever is weighing it down. Prepare your brand for takeoff by getting these first 5 branding landmarks in place. Now, let's deal with the drag. So your brand has taken off. Now there'll be forces that pull it back down. And you're going to have to deal with competition, turbulent conditions like changing economics and policy, slumps and demand. You could find yourself asking, was my timing right? Should I have waited? Should I have priced it lower? Get past these self-doubts and understand these opposing forces are part of any and every flight plan. All great brands have faced these forces, stuck the course, scaled to the heights we all admire them from today. So, what do you do to overcome drag? You use thrust to keep your brand going and rising and conquering. The thrust not only helps you overcome drag, but it also helps you navigate bad weather. The next 5 landmarks of branding are your thrust forces. And these are social media, products and services, campaigns, blog or vlog, and my favorite, your values and ethics. And here's a quick but key tip about each of these. I'm going to go fast. Number 6, social media. Each social media channel has its own culture, its own language. When sharing on any social media channel, make sure to speak in their language to make a connection with your audience. The same generic content across multiple channels just won't cut it. Number 7, products and services. Don't pack it all in. Don't shove all of your knowledge into one master product or service. Instead, create many products and services, small, medium, and large, to cater to your ideal individuals at various stages of their brand involvement. Vary the price points, have something for all of your ideal individuals. Number 8, campaigns. This tip is the key to getting your campaign right, and yet most people tend to overlook it. Don't base your campaign on what you think they want. Base it on what they want based on the feedback you've received, you've analyzed. You have to put in the work of split testing and analyzing what they're attracted to, what they want from you, and put that into your products and services. Number 9, blog. Raise the stakes through your blog. Don't put out generic content and talk at the conceptual level, pontificate. Get down into the heart of the matter and get real about what you teach. Hook the readers in with content that produces big results. Number 10, values and ethics. This is one of my favorites because the values and ethics you choose and don't choose need to be expressed in every other branding landmark. And my foremost tip here is that when laying the foundation for your values and ethics, you must acknowledge every limiting belief and vulnerability your ideal individual experiences. I'm going to say it again more simply. You need to value every vulnerability. Every purchase has a vulnerability inside it. They need something. Acknowledge these vulnerabilities and design your values and ethics to reach out to them. All of these branding landmarks come together beautifully to power your brand, to guide it, and keep it flying high in fair weather and foul. Shift your focus to the positive forces. Here are the famous words by one of the greatest, Leonardo da Vinci. Once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward. For there you have been, and there you will always long to return. And even Henry Ford said, when everything seems to be against you, remember that an airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. So don't focus on weight and drag so much when building your brand. Don't let these forces hold you back. Instead, focus on lift and thrust. Make that mental shift. Don't try to remove the negative forces from the equation. Those will always be present. That's part of it. It's the inspiring part. Instead of spending it all on fighting negative forces, put your energy into fueling the positive forces. Strengthen the positive forces to overcome, defeat, and rise above any limiting belief. Have the desire, the faith, self-confidence to launch your brand. Today, decide to give up that shit that's weighing you down. What is the one branding landmark that is your greatest lift force? What branding landmark can you increase the thrust on to strengthen your brand? Focus on this one. Build on this one. Identify your strengths. Have a clear objective and work on it. Decide on one central premise for your brand and then logically work towards this. Thank you all for joining me. I'll leave you with this one last thought. To quote Ayn Rand, the question isn't who is going to let me. It is who is going to stop me. And the only person who can truly stop you is you. The best way I know how to focus on the lift and let go of the drag is to follow the golden rule at Inspiration to Millions. To love what you do and love how you do it.
Thanks for watching. Don't miss out on a single thing. Subscribe below. And here's something else I think you'll love.